Do you listen to people when you're doing cards?
You mean spirits?
I feel like you don't think that you do, but you have a lot of energy behind you, and it's almost like there's a gray block, and you're reaching out towards to try and listen to it, but it's hard for you. And I just don't want people to think on this YouTube video that you're like thinking too hard and you don't know what you're doing, but from what I'm seeing, you are literally trying to listen to a whole bunch of voices behind you, but they're very far away and they're very far back, and I don't know how to help you clear that block, but I do think that's where you're trying to get your information from, which is why it's slow.
Hi everyone, I'm Em!
And I'm Liv, and we're your Meta PsycKicks! So today we have a very special guest. Her name is Julie, and she hails from New Jersey, where Cake Boss goes from, and Hoboken style. So everybody knows about tarot, which is the most mainstream divination tool that probably most everybody knows about. But Julie is super great and really awesome, and she's going to teach us about Ogham and runes. And if you don't know what that is, you're going to find out.
What I practice is Ogham, which is from the Celtic nation, specifically Ireland, and it's actually an alphabet. A lot of people refer to it as a tree alphabet. It's mostly trees. There's some other things within there. So I actually have two different forms of reading Ogham. I have Acorns, which the more traditional way of reading Ogham would be on sticks or stones or some sort of thing. And generally people make their own, but I got these from Etsy. And I have these lovely wooden acorns. And if you can see, they have these marks on them. So Ogham is a vertical written language, and you read it from bottom to top again. So if you were, writing something out, you would read it up. And then I also have these lovely cards where they have the image of the tree, and then they also have their symbol, their Ogham marking on the bottom. So these you could read a little bit closer to how you would think of a traditional tarot card. In the Celtic nations, words were really important, and the thought of knowledge was really important. So you had this kind of higher class of people that they referred to as poets, but think of them more as scholars. And they're the ones that really studied this language and really studied how to read Ogham. And how you would do that, if I'm taking my acorns, you would, select the ones that you feel connected to. Sometimes I'll do them, from a bag randomly, or I'll have them out in front of me and I'll just kind of grab.
So you don't even have to use all of them.
Right. And I think that's the problem.
Do you pick and choose though? Or you just pick a handful?
I pick a handful. So anyway, I have this handful of my Ogham acorns, and you'd kind of shake them and meditate on whatever you wanted to think about or have more understanding. And then you would just kind of cast them out in front of you. And if you can look down here, you can now see that we have a pattern of acorns. So when we're doing a reading like this, I would typically have the person I was doing a reading for sitting next to me so that they can have the same view that I am, and there's no, discerning between right and left and my right and your left kind of thing. So everything closest to us would be seen as kind of the root system. So it's either going to be the past, or it's going to be kind of the root of the situation or problem that you want more information on. And then as you read up, you're looking more and more into the future. And the size of the imaginary tree trunk line that we're drawing here is also going to have an importance. So everything on the left-hand side is going to have kind of a darker, more negative aspect to the situation, and everything on the right-hand side is going to be more positive. So as you can see, this casting has a lot more negative sides to it. And that might not necessarily be a bad thing. So take negative in more of
retrospective action.
Just a darker sense of the situation. Right. Yeah.
You also have cards. How do the cards come into play with your acorns?
So the cards are going to be a very similar aspect to tarot reading, where you're going to have a specific spread. I have also used cards to do kind of a free spread. Free castings are my favorite to do because it's a lot less restrictive, and I find it more fun and a little bit easier to get more in depth into whatever situation you want more knowledge about.
Can you pan back down to the Ogham real quick? I was trying not to interrupt. They are literally whispering to each other.
You could see that?
Yes. They have like a and it's like pss, 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 pss.
Are each of them different?
Yes.
Yes.
Pick up one.
Okay, here,
They
pan
are.
down a little bit more.
Liv's a psychic medium, and the acorns are talking to her.
What do those two
Okay.
mean? Those two are the ones that have most of the energy going through them.
So this is Hawthorne, and it represents kind of a protection and a connection with the she. So the she is the fairies, the otherworld creatures. And I've been getting a lot of Hawthorns drawn for myself, which is kind of interesting. And that's a whole nother story. But it makes sense that this one would be, calling to you.
Wild. Yeah, so now we're going to get into the readings.
All right. So what do you want, an information about or something
I want
cleared up?
information about my love life and also my business. Like spiritual love. That's what I want.
Okay.
So you're doing love first?
All at the same time.
All at the same time.
Yeah, so how I'm reading this is kind of center,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then it kind of branches out that way.
Yeah.
So that which side is the good side and which side is the bad side?
The left side is the bad side and the right side is the good side.
Right. So over here, we're going to get more of the negative energy. And then over here, we're going to get more of the positive. And then as the farther out we go, the more in the future it is.
Got you.
We got a lot of things going on right now.
So looking over here at this first stone, so we have this one, which is the Hawthorn.
I was going to say, isn't that Hawthorne?
It is. So again, we're looking at kind of I think for this one, I'm going to read it more as a barrier instead of, just a she protection. So we're thinking about hawthorns. We're thinking about kind of a very solid tree that's hard to get into. So I kind of see this as a spiritual barrier almost.
Oh, no, that makes sense because I was a medium in the past, but I didn't embrace my mediumship. And I 100% put a barrier up to it and tried to ignore it and pretend that it would hopefully go away because it's not something that you could talk to the general public about. So there was a lot of repressed emotions as well as repressed spirituality for so many different things. It's ridiculous.
And then moving up from that, we have two that are on a very similar level. So I'm actually going to bring this one up first because it's a little bit lower. So here, how are we gonna? So this is an oak. And like we were saying before, oak is the kind of king of the forest, you want to say. So he's going to be I don't want to say father figure, but
like a Leo,
kind of the
protector.
The protector, yeah.
Yes, exactly. This is showing kind of that doorway or that openness that you've had in your hawthorn, right? So you had this barrier, and then I'm seeing more of an starting to open. Oaks are very crafty, and I mean crafty in a good way, right? Like you see a lot of craftsmanship working within oak. So I see this more as a building structure for your spirituality, where you're building what you need to build. Does that make sense?
That would be when I met Emily and I finally had somebody that I could talk to about it with.
We're going on to one of my favorites. So this is the sea.
Mm-hmm.
So last time I showed the card for the sea, so this is the rune for it. And I was talking about how when I pull it, I tend to get more of a kind of a motherly female energy from it. But for this, I'm getting more of the kind of the flip side of the sea is kind of adventure and travel, right? You're going through some sort of adventure, but I see it in more of a flowing sense.
Mm-hmm.
So we're coming out of that protected barrier feeling through something that you're building through relationships and knowledge, and you're going to kind of flow this through. And again, I think when you were speaking of Emily and you brought me up, we're both very feminine female energy flowing. So I think that's where we're getting that information from.
I think that's when she
And then
started
we're going to-
embracing her mediumship.
Yeah, I think
Just
that
a
makes
little
sense.
bit, yeah. And all of
Right,
those are
you're-
so
you're-
close together. I feel like they're not so far in the past because they're so close together. I feel like most of the big things that have been happening in my life have been in the last 6 years.
Yeah, and like I said, they are very connected, so it feels more like a kind of a push through journey struggle where you're
Like a
building that
transition.
wall. Exactly. Yeah.
Like a transition.
And actually, bringing that up, I'm gonna bring up this lovely rune, and this is the beech tree, and it represents kind of old knowledge and kind of picturing old books and all this information that's coming through. And I think this is really just representing your mediumship, and you're getting all of this old knowledge, and it's there.
So wild.
And I'm kind of seeing this middle area as kind of where you're at the moment, right? So we're kind of moving from where you came from to kind of where you are now. So I think you're just getting such an influx of information that it's just showing up, right? And this lovely guy, this is the silver fir, and it's lovely that it's so close to this old knowledge tree, because it's bringing more of that energy of this knowledge that you're getting is from a higher spiritual place. It's not, you're not going to libraries and reading
She's gonna cry.
forever.
I'm gonna cry.
You know, solidifying that fact that you're getting all of this old spiritual knowledge. And we're going to move on to this acorn. And this one's really fun. So the literal translation for this is in the end, in the beginning, and in the beginning, in the end. And it's such a cycle flow of energy and information that it just feels very wholeness and complete. I don't have a good like real world application for that, but that it's that lovely, you know, golden circle around you that's just kind of there.
That's great. I will tell you
Yeah.
how you're impacting me when you're done reading me.
And we're going to come to our first upside down rune.
Oh, they mean different things when they're upside down. Oh,
They do.
that's so cute.
So we have this, and it looks like the hawthorn, right? But it's actually the birch. And this is representing of, you know, new beginnings and just kind of revitalization. So I think this is showing when you guys are coming, or when you're coming out of that transition that you're currently in, and it's just going to kind of come from that golden flow that I was speaking about earlier. So you're having all of this spiritual knowledge that's kind of wrapping you into the right direction and kind of pushing you into that new beginning.
It's our entire business.
Yeah, and continuing along that path, we have this acorn here. And this is the ivy. And it's kind of, if you think of ivy, you're going to see that beautiful natural spiral, right? So it's I see this more as just kind of reaffirming that transition is going to be more complete, because there's going to be an end to that endless spiral of information. So you're going to get to where you're trying to go. And as I'm saying that, I'm trying to read these one at a time, but this is literally you're going to get to where you're going to go.
And the
so I'm not
ivy's
gonna spend too much time.
just like a secure, like you're gonna get there in a secure way. Like it's gonna be
Right.
a set direction.
Right.
Oh, thank God.
And I do have to say, since that one is a little bit more towards the left-hand side, I don't know if where you're going to end up is exactly where you think you want to be, but it's where you're supposed to be.
Got it. We literally were talking about this earlier. We're like, nothing ever happens the way you want it to happen. It's gonna happen, but it's definitely gonna be a little bit different than what you thought it was gonna be.
So this is the Rowan tree, and it's another protection device, not device, but protection energy. And it's a very sensual tree, but not in like a sensual way. It's more of embracing your senses. And again, this is more on the left-hand side. So looking at where this is, I think it's going to kind of play into that path that you're going on. It's feeling more like you're on a straight path, right? But there's going to be blocks, and it's going to be your senses that are going to be blocking you. Yeah.
Because I'm an emotional wreck.
Oh, that makes so much sense for you.
Yeah. We'll see.
We'll see how that's going to happen.
Yeah, I just wonder how it'll actually happen.
Now the last left-hand side. So we have this acorn. And this is the U. And it generally is, kind of rebirth and an everlasting energy flow within you. And I think this is probably just pulling off more of, looking into your sense that's going to kind of push against you. I don't think that's ever going to stop. Like, I think you're always going to have to struggle with it.
Is it like a
little
lack
bit
of confidence?
I wouldn't necessarily call it a lack of confidence. I think it's just you're always going to have to struggle to. I guess it's kind of a lack of confidence, right? I'm saying that you're always going to have a lack of struggling to kind of convince yourself to trust what you're actually thinking and what you're actually feeling.
Every day. Struggle with my emotions, too.
Right, and that is also in that,
I feel like it's
that middle
like,
band, which is now.
You have to struggle in order to understand certain things in your life. Because you're an old soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
So I'm going to go up into the right side now, where we have this lovely guy. And this is the reed, which I had also pulled for myself earlier. And again, this is just a direct action that's going to take place. So again, I'm kind of seeing this as, right, so you have your path that you're on, and you're going to end up somewhere. And there's going to be kind of this positive, negative push to figure out where that's going to be. Because we kind of have this diagonal of light and dark that you're going to kind of struggle with. But the good news I have is we have this guy at the top. So this is farther out in your future. But this is the spindle. And it's just full of sweetness and delight. And you're going to have all of this intelligence and information that you're getting from these, this old knowledge that you're receiving. So you're going to get wiser and you're going to get smarter, and it's just going to be wholesome and good, and all of that golden energy flow isn't going to go away. It's you're going to get through all of that and end up there.
You're gonna make me cry again. So I think it's interesting that in the reading you said that there's a lot of old knowledge and golden light. Mm-hmm. So Emily has made some comments about how your past lives can be your spirit guide. So I was driving in the car talking to my spirit guides, and then all of a sudden this woman walked forward, and she had like brown skin. I don't think she was black, but she had darker skin, not like me, and she had darker hair, and she was probably in her and she had dark straight hair, and it was very long, and she was wearing like an old styled dress. She just walked up to me, and she's like, "It's because you did all of this before. You've done this, and that's how you know these things." And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, well, who are you? And she's like, I am you. And I'm like,
it's her past life was talking to her.
I'm like, what? She's like, you were a healer. You were a medicine woman. You did all of these things. I am you. That's how you know these things. You weren't ready to do it in the time that you did it, and there was a lot more hardship around it, and now you're doing it again. And I'm like, what? And I was like, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to this is really weird. I'm crazy. This doesn't make any sense. I don't think like past lives can be spirit guides.
Yeah,
she's
I
like,
told you that though.
and she's like, I'm not your spirit guide. I am you.
Yeah.
There's a difference. And I just was like, this is crazy. So I ignored it. And you're literally telling me that there's a feminine energy. And when I see her, she's like wrapped in golden light. She has light behind her. And that it's old knowledge and things that I've done before. And I'm just like,
so
because I'm like,
your past life is talking to you through her acorns.
Yes, because I'm
That's
like kind of
awesome.
I'm kind of like pushing her away because I'm like, this isn't a thing. And you're like, you have to like come into contact with your emotions, and you have confidence issues of like dealing with the knowledge that you're given. And you're literally telling me, she's like, I'm here, I'm in your acorns, quit being an asshole. It's wild, which is why I'm about to cry, because this woman is so cool, and I'm like, I can't be you. You're too cool. Also, we don't look anything alike. And she's just like, doesn't
why you
matter.
have to struggle in order to understand things? Because you don't accept anything for what it is.
Exactly. So thank you. That was a great reading. I'm sorry. I have to be.
You have to compose yourself. It's not funny.
I'm getting to the
It's
point
just
where
really
I'm
funny.
so tired before I start crying and turn into a bitch. I get really silly.
Everything is just so funny.
Mm-hmm.
So many funny hats. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see more content from Julie, make sure to comment below and we'll get her on our channel again. However, while you guys wait, check out these videos next. Make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss any of our other content. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
I hate how you just pull it out of your ass like a beautiful turd.
I'm just really good at outros.
Should we talk about the podcast, though? About how she's going to talk more in the podcast about everything else?
No, it's too late. It's already happened.
We'll put it in the back because she likes to add like 3 seconds of video after the video. If you want more, we're going to be doing this in the podcast, and there's going to be a lot more tears. I'm probably going to cry a lot. Julie's going to blow my mind, and we're going to do some history. So join us. Okay, that's good. You figure out how to put that in there.